Hello and welcome to this English lesson where we're going to talk about the kitchen and we're going to talk about all kinds of things that you would find in the kitchen. I hope that you enjoy this lesson. The kitchen is one of my favorite places in the house because I really like food. I like making food as well, but I do like the kitchen because I like snacks. I like supper time. I like dinner time. I like lunch. I just like eating. I also exercise quite a bit because when you like to eat, you do need to walk quite a bit and you do need to work out to offset the food you eat. I know that it will seem like I'm teaching a lot of really simple vocabulary, but with each word that I teach you, I will try to add a few phrases and I'll talk about how I use that word in regular everyday speech. So I'm going to start by teaching you 3 verbs that we use when we're in the kitchen. Sometimes we bake in the kitchen. Sometimes we cook in the kitchen, and sometimes we make things in the kitchen. Let me back up. When we bake, we're usually talking about things like bread or cookies or pies. So I could say, today I'm going to bake bread. Today I'm going to bake a pie. Tomorrow I'm going to bake muffins. Usually when we are baking, we are putting things in the oven. So the oven is the appliance where you open the door, you put something in and you close it. But usually when we bake, we're talking about things that we make out of flour. I do need to add as well, this is a very North American English lesson. The English that I am teaching you today about the kitchen will also reflect that these are things that we do in Canada and the United States. So this, I know around the world, there are different ways to prepare food. This lesson is very much a North American English lesson. So we bake bread, we bake pies, we bake cakes. Those are all really yummy things, by the way. One moment I forgot my glasses and I'm already having trouble reading stuff. We also cook in the kitchen. So when you cook things, generally you cook things on the stove top. So again, the oven is where you put things in. The stove top is where you put pots and pans and frying pans and you cook things. So generally we cook foods that we will be eating for our meals. So you would cook spaghetti, you would cook hamburgers, you would cook hot dogs, you would cook a meal. You would say that tonight, who's cooking tonight? Is Jen cooking or is Bob cooking? So cooking refers to the general practice of preparing meals. If it's a meal where you need to heat it up. If you don't need to heat up the meal, you're not cooking it. But if you're confused about whether to use bake or cook, here's the simpler way to refer to things. We often just use the verb make when we're talking about food. So if you think about all of the food items I've already mentioned, I could say, oh, I might make bread today. I might make cupcakes today. I might make hamburgers today. I might make hot dogs today. I'm thinking that tonight I might make spaghetti. So if you don't know whether to use bake or cook, the simple way out is to just use the verb to make. So often we make supper. Jen and I take turns making supper. Actually, I think I've mentioned this before. In the summer, when Jen is busy on the flower farm, I make supper most of the time. We can also use dinner. In the winter, Jen makes supper more than I do because I'm a little busier than her. So if you're not sure whether to use bake or cook, just use make. The place in the kitchen where you prepare a lot of things is called the counter or the countertop. So you can see the surface here. That is the area where you prepare food, okay? So it's not where you cook food. It's where you prepare food in order to cook it. We are often preparing food on our countertop in order to get it ready to cook. So when I make cupcakes, I first get all the ingredients out and I use the countertop to prepare the food for the oven. The oven, again, just to review, is the appliance that heats to a certain temperature. Often when you are cooking, actually all the time when you are baking or cooking using the oven, you will preheat the oven to a certain temperature. Interestingly enough, all of our recipes in Canada are still in Fahrenheit because we love the United States and we do a lot of things the same as them. When you use the oven to bake something, you will preheat the oven. It'll say preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So you will preheat the oven, then you will prepare the food that you want to bake, and then you will put it in the oven. I should mention You don't just bake in the oven. You can also roast things in the oven. So when you're preparing meats, you often use the word roast. I'm going to roast some chicken in the oven. I'm going to roast a roast in the oven. And I think we would even say cook. I think I would cook chicken in the oven. Just use the verb make. It's a lot easier. We also have the stove or the stovetop. So the stovetop or stove is the place where you cook things. Just let me do one thing here, folks. I forgot to open something up before I started the lesson. There we go. Now I can keep track of where I am. So the stove does not need to be preheated too much. You just get a pot or pan, you put it on the stove, and you start to cook. We also have what's called a microwave. So I remember as a kid, when I was about 10 years old, we bought a microwave. It was a brand new thing in the world. We had never seen it before. My dad and mom came home from the store and said, "We bought a microwave." And I said, "What is a microwave?" And then we spent about a month, I remember as a child, learning how to heat different things up in the microwave or how to cook different things in the microwave. Probably the coolest thing for me was that you could microwave an egg. I don't do that anymore because I don't like the taste of a microwaved egg. By the way, you need to poke the yolk with a fork before you try that. I usually fry my eggs in a frying pan. But yes, a microwave is interesting. You put food in, you punch in the amount of time you want to cook it, and you hit start, and then it beeps when it is done. So generally, we use our microwave to thaw things out or to cook some things, some small things. But usually we use our stove or oven when we are making food. Let's see here. We also on our counter, by the way, I'm talking about appliances right now that are on your counter. On our counter, we have a toaster. We often put bread in the toaster. We put the toaster down and we wait for the toaster to pop up. When the toaster pops up, you decide if the bread is brown enough or if it is toasted enough. If it's not, you put the toaster down again. Sometimes if you put the toaster down too many times, the toast will burn. Sorry, I have a little bit of a little tickle in my throat. But let's talk about the toaster from the beginning again. You get 2 slices of bread, you put it in the toaster. This is a 2-slice toaster. You can also buy a 4-slice toaster. We have a 4-slice toaster because there's lots of people in the family. You put the toast down or you put the toaster down. You can use either phrase. And then you wait. After a certain amount of time, it pops up and you kind of look, oh, that toast isn't as brown as I would like it, or that toast isn't as toasted as I would like it, and you put it down again. There's also a dial where you can set how long the toaster toasts the toast. You want me to say that sentence again? You can set how long the toaster toasts the toast before it pops up. We also, on our counter, and on many counters in North America, you will find a coffee maker. Now, the coffee maker has changed over the last few years. Many years ago, we had an older style. Most people now have this style, which is a single cup coffee maker. I think you could call it like an Instabrew, or ours is from a company called Keurig, and many people just call it a Keurig now. But it is a coffee maker that makes 1 cup of coffee. This is the style of coffee maker that I have in my kitchen. It's very, very handy because I'm the only one that drinks coffee and I only drink 1 cup. So it's nice to be able to just make 1 cup of coffee. Let's see where I am here. We also have a kettle. We do drink tea in our family, and sometimes we will boil water in the kettle. Let me go back to the coffee maker though. The coffee maker takes pods. You put a pod in the coffee maker. It is a small amount of coffee that's pre-packaged. You put it in the coffee maker, you close the lid, and you select how much coffee you want, depending on the size of your mug. I actually don't use pods though. I have a reusable filter that makes exactly 1 cup of coffee. So we also have a kettle. Sometimes we put the kettle on. That means that you put water in the kettle and you start the kettle, and then people can wait until, sometimes they whistle. Our kettle does not whistle when it's done. It automatically turns off. You hear a little click, and then you know the water has boiled and you can make some tea. But definitely we have a kettle as well. We also on the counter have a knife block. So in many North American kitchens, you will have a block of wood with lots of little holes in it, and then different size knives for cutting different things. So we have a knife block in our kitchen as well. It has different knives for cutting different kinds of food. And it also has what are called steak knives along the bottom, which is a small knife for eating different meats. And we have a pair of scissors in our knife block. The most common thing for people in our house to say about the knife block is, where are the scissors? Who used the scissors last? Did somebody forget to put the scissors back in the knife block? So that is probably the most popular pair of scissors in our house, and it often goes missing. In the kitchen as well, you will have cupboards. So cupboards or cabinets, we usually call them cupboards, but cupboards are the things with doors that you can open, and that is where you store your food, as well as all your cutlery or utensils or plates and cups and bowls, so your dishware. So cupboards are just small cabinets that you have in your kitchen, and it is a great place to store all of the things that you own. So when we are done doing the dishes, we put all the dishes away in the cupboards. When we come home from the grocery store, we put all the groceries away in the cupboards as well. So we have cupboards where we keep all our pots and pans and plates and bowls and mugs. And we have other cupboards where we keep most of our food, the food that doesn't need to go in the fridge. Let's see here. Oh, Evgenie has become a member of the channel. Thank you so much, Evgenie, for becoming a member. That is awesome of you. Thank you so much for doing that. There are also drawers in the kitchen. So we have kitchen drawers. By the way, we do call them kitchen cupboards, and we do call them kitchen drawers sometimes. So when someone says, do you know where this item is? I can't think of an example. Someone might say, oh, check in the kitchen drawer beside the utensils. So we refer to it as the kitchen drawer. But a drawer is something that you pull out. You can open a drawer to look for certain things. And we do have a special kind of drawer called a utensil drawer. So a utensil drawer is a drawer where we store three things in particular: our forks, spoons, and knives. You notice I'm going fairly quickly because a lot of this, I think, is review for you. So I'll try to slow down a little bit, but in our utensil drawer, it might also be called the cutlery drawer. We call it the utensil drawer here in Canada. I'm curious to see what Brent calls it in America, whether they call it a utensil drawer. But in that drawer, we keep primarily the forks that we would use when eating a meal, the spoons that we would use when eating a meal, and the knives we would use. This knife, by the way, is called a butter knife. A butter knife is a knife that is not really sharp. It's made more for spreading things on food than it is for cutting food. So it's usually called a butter knife. We have larger spoons, which we call serving spoons. So if I'm serving food, and if people need to get food from a serving bowl, they would use a serving spoon. So if I had a big bowl of potatoes in a serving bowl, there would be a big serving spoon in it. A normal spoon is this big, a serving spoon is this big. So you can scoop up the food that you want. When you eat, you generally eat using a plate. Hey, Tamer, thank you so much for the super chat. That is awesome of you. Thank you very much. A plate is what you use to eat. You might also use a bowl. So a plate is used for things like vegetables and meat and rice or noodles. A bowl is generally used when you eat soup or when you eat stew. So, or cereal. People eat a lot of cereal as well in a bowl. So they'll have a bowl of soup, a bowl of cereal, or a bowl of stew, one of those. You might be wondering the difference between a glass and a mug. I didn't add cup on here. This is a glass because it's made of glass. If this was made of plastic, I would call it a cup. So I have a glass of water here. If it was made of plastic, I would say I have a cup of water. When I drink my coffee in the morning, I drink it from a mug. A mug almost always has a handle on the side. So how much coffee do I drink every day? I have